Wildfires are sweeping through the Amazon rainforest at an alarming rate.
In 2019, images of the burning Amazon shocked the world.
There's a major tragedy going on in the Amazon, which is really the lungs of the earth.
The Amazon rainforest itself is reaching a tipping point. If much more deforestation happens, the ecosystem would collapse.
But inside Brazil, the global outcry raised a different kind of alarm: foreign meddling.
Esse é mundo evadiu que eles não querem saber de árvore, eles querem saber do minério do Brasil.
Look at how huge they are. And it's emboldened further deforestation under the banner of a nationalist economic agenda.
Nós temos o direito de adotar políticas para essa área que nos interessem.
The present position is we have to develop the Amazon.
We've just passed about 7-8 kilometers of trucks at a standstill. It's just insane. But the Amazon's industrial expansion isn't exactly what it seems.
So it seems as though there's a lot of unwitting complicity, regular Americans like you and I.
That's right.
There's a broad consensus that says that we're reaching a tipping point.
Não, não há. Não tem queimada, não tem fumaça, não tem nada. Olha o céu como está bonito, lindo.
The Amazon is the largest tropical rainforest in the world. Between 1990 and 2007, it reportedly took in a quarter of all carbon absorbed by forests worldwide, a critical bulwark against climate change. 60% of the Amazon lies within the borders of Brazil.
Wildfires are sweeping through the Amazon rainforest at an alarming rate.
Reports of fires raging through the region dominated global headlines.
This is a clear sign that we need to stop destroying nature and our war against nature must end.
And the world called on Brazil to contain the blaze in an Amazon that has already lost 20% of its landmass to deforestation in the last 4 decades.
The world's largest rainforest, the Amazon, is crucial to any climate change solution for its capacity to sequester carbon, and it is on fire.
As you look out, we're not seeing lots of big fires, but you do see lots of small ones kind of dotting the horizon. These agents from IBAMA, an arm of Brazil's environmental ministry, say the first step in deforestation is clear-cutting valuable timber, whether legally or, like this logging operation, illegally. Look at how huge they are. The authorities that we're following have said that they routinely come across operations like this deep inside the forest. This is just one step, one part of the process in seeing the forest being dismantled. Since 1965, Brazil has enacted laws to protect the Amazon from destruction and from development that threatens the stability of its ecosystem and encroaches on the land of indigenous tribes. But enforcement is increasingly difficult. In this area of the rainforest, there is an average of just 1 agent for every 25 million acres.
The Amazon rainforest itself is reaching a tipping point. If much more deforestation happens, the ecosystem would collapse and turn into a savanna or a dry forest and no longer be the rich, biodiverse rainforest that it currently is.
And how close are we to that?
Well, in recent weeks and months, scientists have said that we're within maybe a couple of years at the rate that deforestation is currently happening.
And what are the major drivers of that?
The main drivers are the agribusiness industry, and so in particular that's cattle ranching and soy.
In 2018, Brazil overtook the US as the largest producer of soybeans in the world. The Brazilian Amazon also dominates the beef market, accounting for 1/5 of all global exports. Inside the rainforest, cattle ranching and soybean cultivation go hand in hand, and several towns have sprung up whose economies depend on these two commodities. We're following a cattle rancher who invited us to his land to show us some of his plots. We're learning more and more that many of these farms are actually hidden, socked away inside what seems to be intact rainforest. To create these farms, the trees are cleared and the debris is then burned. Of the 20% of rainforest that's been lost since the 1970s, more than half is now farmland.
Agora vai ser remontado isso, gradeado e corrigido a terra e plantado capim. E esse quadro daqui para baixo, em dezembro, a gente ara e planta arroz.
Sidney Menezes is a first-generation farmer who came here in the 1980s from southern Brazil. He receives permits from the Brazilian government to expand his nearly 2,700-acre farm.
Essa área aqui, ela está sendo recuperada. Era uma pastagem degradada, Aí a gente tem autorização para uma limpeza mecanizada e uma queima controlada. É uma queima controlada, com documento.
Vocês queimaram aqui ontem?
Oi?
Foi ontem?
É.
E já acabou?
Sim.
In the summer of 2019, much of the world saw many fires spreading across the Amazon, and there was a global outcry. What do you make of that response?
O primeiro ponto é que eu não acredito não houve esse fogo todo. A proporção dada à notícia em si foi muito maior do que foi na realidade. As queimadas existem, mas elas são pontuais e são para limpeza de áreas já degradadas. As queimadas não ocorrem na mata amazônica.
So you don't agree with some of the numbers that were put out about the amount of burning that was taking place? Was the media just lying?
Com certeza. Tenho certeza absoluta disso.
Many of the farmers we spoke to dismiss the coverage of the fires and say the outcry is a sham. Even though Brazil's own space agency published data concluding that in June of 2019, there was 88% more deforestation from fires than in the same month the year before.
Mas uma grande dificuldade, e aí eles só criticam, não vêm ver a nossa realidade. Esse é um bom debate. E eles não querem saber de arte, eles querem saber do minério do Brasil. Esse é que eles querem saber. Não sou índio, mas sou brasileiro. E eu tenho o direito para desfrutar da terra.
Under the Amazon are vast reserves of gold. Long-standing rumors of foreigners moving in have further delegitimized international concerns in the eyes of locals.
It is a fact. This year, the fires were bigger. But you have to get the facts right, or they will accuse you of lying, of spreading fake news and everything.
Journalists like Daniel Bramante say celebrities and media outlets posting factual errors or constantly repeating the now debunked claim that the Amazon produces a fifth of oxygen for the entire planet only exacerbates the problem. But as he and his colleagues started combing social media posts about the fires, they noticed that stories shifted from the legitimate grievances of small farmers to downright disinformation.
This is the result of the spreading of rumors about the Amazon. This is all about the Amazon, and this is a little bit more than 1 month of work, just conspiracy theories and false rumors about the fires.
Bramante says much of the local opinion has been shaped by unsubstantiated claims shared on social media, and even adopted by the Brazilian government.
Our president said that the fires were started by NGOs.
The fires were started by NGOs.
He said that.
The people who are trying to protect the Amazon are the ones who started it.
Yeah. The right wing is politicizing the issue.
So what is the president's position on the Amazon?
The president's position is we have to develop the Amazon.
Nós temos o direito de adotar políticas para essa área que nos interessam.
Jair Bolsonaro is a right-wing populist elected in 2018 on a Brazil First policy agenda.
He comes from military background, and when the military were in power here in Brazil in the 70s, they sent a lot of people from the south to go the Amazon and build roads and build cities, and they started the deforestation trend that we see till today.
After a decades-long push for development and exploitation of the rainforest, Brazil did begin to scale back deforestation. But then in 2014, the country's economy plunged into its worst recession on record. Now, deforestation trends are on the rise, and proponents are newly emboldened by the rhetoric and policies of Bolsonaro's Brazil First agenda.
Momento do produtor rural. Apoio Sindicato dos Produtores Rurais. Muito bem, 7h19. Partiu Momento do Produtor Rural. Seu Agamenon Menezes já está no estúdio. Bom dia, seu Agamenon.
Bom dia, Rosa. Bom dia a todos que estão na escuta conosco.
É complicado, né? Realmente morar aqui na Amazônia.
O que se viu lá nos Estados Unidos, que se vê lá, que todo mundo tá vendo, que a Amazônia pegou fogo, assim, tipo, deu um boom. Queimou tudo, tá queimando tudo, entendeu? A floresta toda do Amazonas tá queimando, não tá ficando nada para trás. Então, assim, é uma mentira, uma invenção. Não existe isso, entendeu? Nós estamos provando aqui que a Amazônia é uma terra fértil e produtiva.
Agamenon da Silva Menezes heads up a farmers' union in the town of Novo Progresso in Pará, a state considered by many the epicenter of deforestation. According to a government report, Menezes was involved in defending irregular land schemes, and a local journalist claimed he is suspected of starting fires in August 2019.
Bolsonaro tem pensamento diferente, ele tem pensamento de Brasil. O Brasil tem que ser pátria nossa, tem que ser defendido, assim como os Estados Unidos faz, ele defende a sua pátria. Que é dele, acabou e não aceita ninguém meter o bico.
There's a broad consensus across the scientific community that says that we're reaching a tipping point.
Não há.
So the global outcry over deforestation and over the number of fires that have occurred in the last year, the last 2 years, is unwarranted.
Sem razão, alarde. Eu não sei por que o mundo está preocupado com a Amazônia é deles. Não precisa ninguém vir aqui dar pitaca. Nós sabemos como fazer. Agora, quem vai explorar o subsolo não será os estrangeiros, serão os brasileiros.
The towns we travel through are reminiscent of the boom towns that crop up when there's a rush for gold or other resources.
We come across a number of towns and truck stops that are catering largely to miners, loggers, farmers who use this corridor to transport their goods and to continue to develop this place. It's pretty astounding. One of the things that I've noticed that I see most are tire changing stations. It's like every other store is like a borracharia.
In 2009, the author of a study on the Amazonian economy reported that deforestation and development more than double incomes in surrounding areas, from an average of $38 to $100 per month. But once the resources have been harvested, the wage increases return to pre-development levels.
So we just had breakfast in your restaurant a few minutes ago. It seems like you're doing really good business.
Não, meu negócio bom e atendemos os nossos fregueses da melhor maneira possível, para ele voltar sempre. Porque hoje nós dependemos disso aqui, dependemos do transporte da estrada.
The amount of 18-wheeler traffic on this highway is just insane. I've already counted this long line of trucks here, 18-wheelers, probably over 200 by now. And they're just stopped.
Starting in 1976, nearly 1,100 miles of rainforest was leveled to build this highway, BR 163, to facilitate the funneling of goods out of the Amazon.
This is a very controversial highway. Many feared that paving a highway through the middle of the Amazon would mean the end of the Amazon. Typically, when you build a highway through any stretch of rainforest, you'll get miles and miles of deforestation in every direction.
From August 2018 to July 2019, there was a 30% increase in deforestation from the year before. It's the largest increase from one year to the next since the 1990s, and the highest rate the region has experienced in over a decade.
Hoje 6 horas da tarde, olha pra ver, cara. Oi? Deve 6 horas da tarde, né? Ah, isso já tem uns 5, 4 anos direto aí, trabalhando nesse fermentamento, né? Toda semana, toda semana.
So this is like a perfectly framed picture of the Amazon and the conundrum of the Amazon right now. You've got freshly deforested land and evidence of the economic potential of the Amazon and much more where this came from.
In addition to the highway, the other means by which goods are carried out of the Amazon is through two key rivers that meet at the port city of Santarém, still deep inside the rainforest.
So we're on the Tapajos River, which is a major corridor. It's almost like a highway for transporting goods. But we are just about to come to the intersection between the Tapajos and the fabled Amazon here.
Bom, Santarém ela é estratégica porque no rio ela tem o principal calado do rio que comporta grandes embarcações.
So where do these barges, where do they go?
Eles vão para o porto da Cargill.
That's Cargill?
Sim.
Cargill is a privately held American company that dominates the global grain trade. In a statement they provided, the company claims it has taken steps to advance its commitment to protecting forests.
So when you call this the Cargill port, what does that mean? Do they have does Cargill have sole rights to this port?
Que faz a gestão, que administra. É só a Cargill. O governo cedeu para a Cargill fazer o porto. A presença da Cargill divide opiniões, porque tem alguns setores políticos, empresariais, que acham que a Cargill foi importante para um boom do desenvolvimento.
The presence of foreign companies and increased development inside the Amazon has drawn the attention of environmental watchdogs.
We wanted to look at the supply chains and the financial flows between the outside world and the Brazilian Amazon.
The nonprofit group Amazon Watch traced foreign investments by analyzing 4 years' worth of financial records.
And what we found was that many of the financial actors that are investing in the companies involved in deforestation in the Brazilian Amazon, as well as the purchasers of the products, are based in the US and in Europe. The four big soy traders operating in the Brazilian Amazon are ADM, Bunge, Cargill, and Louis Dreyfus. And here you can see all of the banks that are providing credit to those companies. We've got number one over here is BNP Paribas, JP Morgan Chase, based right here in the US. And then down here are the equity investors, so basically the shareholders in these companies. Big US named asset managers, right? So Vanguard, State Farm, BlackRock, State Street.
These are all American and European companies.
That's right. We look specifically at North American and European companies that are complicit in the destruction of the Amazon today. I think we're shielded from what our money is doing abroad.
The example of BlackRock is a really good one to look at because it helps demonstrate that worthiness, right? So it is an asset manager that takes other people's money through their pension funds or maybe a rich person who gives them their funds to invest. Then BlackRock says, oh, well, it's not our money, it's somebody else's money, so we have no responsibility for the impacts of those investments, is their claim. And our answer to that is, no, you very much do. You are advising your clients about where to put their money. When you're creating funds that are ignoring the impacts for the climate, for indigenous rights, for the Amazon rainforest, then yeah, you have a direct responsibility and a complicity in what we're seeing on the ground.
The loudest voices when we were hearing the global uproar over the Amazon burning was from Americans and Europeans, and here you've kind of laid out the complicity that these companies, and by extension us, our money, helps drive this.
Absolutely.
In the months since the Amazon fires, dozens of protests that have taken place around the world increasingly target the money that funds deforestation.
About 10 or so have showed up with panels essentially blocking the employee entrance into the building. About 150 so people here calling attention to BlackRock, which is a major financial institution.
BlackRock manages $7 trillion of assets, including millions of Americans' pension funds and 401ks. It's among the top 3 shareholders in global companies deemed a risk to deforestation. They declined an interview, but provided a statement that included, BlackRock is committed to putting sustainability at the center of our investment approach.
You know, if you work at a university or at a grocery store that has a pension fund, I mean, and, you know, BlackRock could be managing your money.
So it seems as though there's a lot of unwitting complicity.
That's right.
On behalf of regular Americans like you and I.
That's right. And the Amazon is still burning even today, months after the fires gained international attention. There are still fires happening, and of course, the government policies are still being rolled back, and so we're definitely not going to stop.
In January 2020, BlackRock's CEO published a letter urging companies to prioritize combating climate change. But untangling the web of investments and supply chains inside the Amazon is far from straightforward. The Brazilian government cut funding for protection of the Amazon in 2019. Ibama's budget was slashed by 25%, and Bolsonaro fired the head of the country's space agency following its publication of the scope of the fires. Bolsonaro did not respond to our requests for an interview.
Moro aqui há 20 anos, eu criei meus filhos aqui, fiz tudo isso aqui com minhas mãos. Cometi crime ambiental, se parar a terra, plantar e criar gado é crime, eu sou um criminoso, literalmente.
Olha o céu como está bonito, lindo. Não tem queimada, não tem fumaça, não tem nada. Então, dá para você, vindo aqui ver, é que você vai ter a realidade. Pode olhar.